Man, that smells good. Okay, fine, but we gotta do this quick, right here against the wall.
And in today's recap, Stewie takes drastic measures after believing he's been diagnosed with an advanced stage of an imaginary illness. Meanwhile, Peter falls in love with Bonnie's cooking. The episode starts with a festive theme as it was Brian's birthday. Brian reads what's written on the banner and realizes his name has been left out. Peter explains he forgot to mention his name at the party store. Shortly after, the doorbell rings at Peter's house, and Quagmire, Joe, and Kevin show up. Quagmire expresses annoyance, deeming Peter's effort pointless since his dog wouldn't understand. Joe approaches Brian and offers a twig as a birthday gift. Brian tries to take the twig to the kitchen but fails. Cleveland arrives alongside Brian and hands him a card, claiming it had the message "Too much sex ruins the vision" and wishing him a happy birthday.
It also says, "Love Aunt Judy and Uncle Bob."
A joke that good doesn't celebrate just one birthday.
Now Stewie, with messy hair, enters the middle of the room and finds all those people in his house. He complains about no one waking him up in time before the party started, saying he would have spent the night watching a bad reality show. As Brian blows out the candles, he receives applause from the crowd around him. Peter appears and starts giving a speech and presentation. In the middle of the speech, Peter mentions that Brian can't even bury a bone without taking Viagra, among many other defamatory things. At school, we find Stewie playing with his classmates, handing out snacks to them. While he does this, a classmate secretly reveals to Stewie that she has lice. He questions why she's telling him this, and she explains that while they were playing with Play-Doh, she might have passed lice to him. She recommends that Stewie gets tested to see if he has lice too. Stewie expresses his outrage, feeling betrayed. Later, Peter rings the doorbell at Joe's house and is greeted by Bonnie, Joe's wife. Peter asks if Joe is home, and she responds that he's in Tokaya. Peter comments on the incredible smell and asks if it's Brussels sprouts. Bonnie reveals that she actually farted.
Man, something smells good in here. You cooking Brussels sprouts?
No, I just farted.
That checks out.
She then takes a delicious dinner out of the oven, and Peter praises it, saying it's the best thing he's ever eaten. Bonnie invites Peter to join her for dinner since Joe is in Tokaya. Peter decides to text Lois, saying he'll be working late and she shouldn't wait for dinner that night. He then sits down to eat with Bonnie. At school, Stewie is feeling down, prepared to find out if the test came back negative or positive. However, he doesn't receive a very cheerful expression from his doctor. During a long dialogue, Stewie finds out the result was positive for lice. Desperate and incredulous, he expresses his dismay, considering the news terrible. His doctor then suggests that Stewie get his affairs in order. Stewie, bewildered, questions how he would do that as he's only 1 year old. His doctor concludes, saying that in that case, he's ready to die.
Seeing as how you did test positive for cooties.
What? That's terrible!
Well, then you're ready to die.
Back at the Griffin house, Stewie finds himself in the garden, tending to plants while singing. Brian walks past him and asks if Stewie said anything to him. Stewie replies that when someone is so close to death, the whole perspective changes. Stewie's nurse, looking like he's 20, arrives and hands Stewie a bag of medicine. The nurse gives Stewie several kisses on the head, emotionally stating that Stewie takes such good care of him.
I got your meds, honey. My father never loved me, but Stewie, he take good care of me.
Brian questions Stewie if he's not being too dramatic about the lice issue. Stewie shows that the jar of medicine is what keeps him alive, clarifying that it's not drama. Brian, however, still thinks it's an exaggeration on Stewie's part. At the dinner table, while everyone was eating peacefully, Peter seemed to be the only one feeling sad. Lois asks why he's not hungry, and Peter responds by asking Lois to be quiet because he just needs to focus to regain his appetite. However, while he's lost in his imagination, he accidentally blurts out Bonnie's name.
Oh, this is better, Bonnie.
Did you just call me Bonnie?
No! God, no!
Peter tries to justify himself by saying he was going to the bathroom to look at pictures of Russian food on his iPad and then go to bed. In another scene, Brian is recording a life story for Stewie when Chris interrupts, telling him there's a letter for Stewie. Upon opening it, Stewie discovers he'll have the chance to fulfill his last wish, to meet the mascot of the Philadelphia American football team named Gretchen. After that, Bonnie rings the doorbell at Peter's house and Lois offers to answer, but Peter quickly goes to the door himself. When he finds Bonnie holding a plate of stuffed pasta, Peter can't resist and agrees to eat right there. However, he asks her to be quick, telling her to stand against the wall so they won't be seen.
Man, that smells good. Okay, fine, but we gotta do this quick, right here against the wall.
Next, Brian appears in Stewie's room apologizing for the night before and asks to charge his phone. However, he's surprised by a reminder on Stewie's notebook screen saying play. Brian turns on the notebook and watches the video prepared by Stewie. In the video, Stewie talks about his illness being tough on others and deciding to take a one-way bus trip. He mentions a black suit for the funeral and a nice one for Instagram stories. Brian, shocked, feels responsible for Stewie's thoughts. Shortly after, the notebook turns on and Stewie appears, saying his last words to Brian, mentioning he can keep the gift in his closet. When Brian checks, he finds a note. Haha, you wanted it because you need it.
Oh, also, you can have my penis enlarging machine. It's in my closet. Did you look? Will you text me if you looked?
Brian rushes to the kitchen to ask Chris and Meg if they've seen Stewie. Chris says no, but suggests checking Stewie's Instagram. There, Brian discovers he needs to go to Burlington to find Stewie. Meanwhile, Peter finds himself at Bonnie's dinner table again, enjoying roasted turkey. As they see Joe arriving, Peter decides to hide under the table.
Looks like Joe's home early.
What? I ate most of his dinner? He's gonna be so pissed, I better hide.
Joe sits down, thanking Bonnie for helping him eat. He takes off his shoes and asks for the foot fan. Peter messages Joe, suggesting they meet at the bar. Joe curses Peter to Bonnie, calling him an idiot. Despite Joe's anger, he leaves, giving Peter the chance to escape. Peter tells Bonnie he'll miss these moments and hugs her. As Brian speeds on the highway looking for Stewie, he sees a sign, "Welcome to Vermont. People here are rich." Back at home, Peter compliments Lois' cooking, ironically getting emotional. Lois is glad Peter enjoys her food. Peter then mentions eating at Bonnie's and apologizes, suggesting having another child to make up for it. Lois says it's not a problem. In Burlington, Stewie and his nurse discuss why he's there. Brian interrupts, trying to convince Stewie to change his mind. Stewie initially resists, but Brian's heartfelt speech eventually convinces him. Stewie decides not to proceed with the procedure, realizing his life has just begun. The episode ends with Stewie expressing happiness.
Bam-a-lam, whoa, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam, Black Betty had a child. Bam-a-lam, damn thing gone wild. Bam-a-lam.